Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello, listeners. Welcome to Business Innovators Radio. This is your host, Kirsten Taylor. Today, we have a very special guest on the show, and are going to share some very exciting information with us. So, if you're looking to increase your professional effectiveness in the work area, then you've come to the right place. Our special guest today is Kirsten Ross. Kirsten has been speaking professionally for over 20 years, and the content that she primarily speaks on is leadership, communication, and culture. She's based out of the Metro Detroit area, and she has a couple of books. The first is called From People Problems to Productivity, The Health Professional's Guide to Leading Well. Her second book is called Defeat the Drama, Strategies to Get Your Team Fueled, Focused, and Fired Up for Great Service. Kirsten, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
And we're really glad to have you. I'd like to kick off the show by asking you if you could share with the listeners a little bit about your business and how you help your clients become more effective.
So my business is comprised of leadership coaching, team building, and culture correction is what I call it, the ultimate goal of anything, and also some recruiting. And what I do is help entrepreneurs, and I work with a lot of family business, so privately held family businesses, help them maneuver through the drama that is hitting their bottom line, help them remove that drama, any barriers to business success from the people aspect, and help them create a dynamic team that's fully focused on their business objectives.
Wow, that's quite a lot of issues that you actually work with the customers on. Now, breaking those down, what are two or three issues or problems that your clients have that you are able to identify and help them resolve?
So in some businesses, it's, you know what, we're just frustrated. I can't get my team to do what I need them to do. And, you know, what do I do about that? So it's helping them, you know, get their team aligned and fully focused and passionate about the work that they're doing. When I'm working with family business, you know, if anyone's from a dysfunctional family or knows a dysfunctional family, you can kind of envision the kind of drama that might create, and that, you know, that dysfunction enters the business. And so I'll help. I get in the middle of all that muck, and I help them unwind it. Thanksgivings actually often get better when I'm working inside of family businesses. But so, you know, it's leaders who are dealing with this family dysfunction and also the members of that family. Because usually in family business, there's multiple family members working in the business. So whether it's that first generation and it's growing and they need to transition their leadership style, or maybe it's a first generation that's getting ready to pass the business on to that second generation, there's a lot of conflict and, you know, things that can go awry during that transition time. And the third thing I do is I help equip entrepreneurs with the leadership strategies that they need as their businesses grow.
Okay.
You know, so when you're really small, you just have little conversations in the hallway with your team, but as you get bigger, you need to let go of some things. You know, sometimes delegation, micromanaging issues are there. You need to come up with some better communication strategies with a larger team, those kinds of things. And also as you're hiring, just making sure that you're hiring the right people that are a fit for the culture that you need to take great care of your customers.
Okay. Now, in terms of, you know, every company has like a DNA, and how easy is it to change the culture within organizations, you know, organizations that are of scale, you know, if we're talking 50 employees, 100 employees or more?
Yeah, and that's usually the size. I work with a lot of times up to 250 employees. And so, you know, that question, the steps on paper are easy. But a lot of times it's the emotion and the stuff that stands in the way of really doing the difficult stuff you need to do to transition the culture, because it really is, especially if it's been that family business or smaller business that's grown, and maybe they started by hiring their aunt or their next door neighbor's cousin, like those kinds of things. And now you have some people that maybe don't have the right skills or they're entitled, those kinds of things. But anyway, it's I am able to come in. I do what I call a cultural assessment, and I'm able to figure out exactly what's going on that's creating those dynamics in the organization that aren't working. And then I provide really bulleted action steps that walk that entrepreneur, that leader, that business owner through what they need to do to fix it. But I walk alongside of them. But, very often individual leaders need some individual leadership coaching. It sometimes is analyzing some employees and saying, do they have the ability and the desire to do well? If they don't have the ability, then it's figuring out what are the skills they need to build. Is that doable? If they don't have the desire, then they may need to exit out of the organization. Some employees really love to create that drama in the organization. And that's sometimes difficult, letting people go or creating that new team. But on paper, it's, sometimes it's not all that many steps, but if an entrepreneur or a leader does the steps, they're usually a lot closer to having the business that they've always dreamed of than they think.
I may have a business lead for you. Company who may need your services. Yeah, I'll talk to you about it after the after the show. Now,
that sounds great.
What is your secret sauce? Your magic that you bring to the table that you use to help the customer?
I have, I think it's a couple of things, and one is my innate ability to really dive quickly into what is creating this drama. Again, so often the business leaders are saying, I'm just frustrated. I can't get my team to do what I need them to do. I don't know why we can't get there. I don't know why we're not as profitable. And I'm able to quickly determine, here are the barriers, here's what needs to happen. I'm able to quickly determine those people problems, so the dynamics in relationships, the communication snafus, all those kinds of things. So I'm able to really quickly help identify the barriers working with the leaders. And then I'm also able to kind of create that prescription for what they need to do to fix it, to either work around or remove the barriers. The other thing is, while sometimes we're working on, it can be challenging working through, why you're a micromanager, why you're so angry or frustrated, all those kinds of things, or the communication snafus or family dynamic things. And I bring a lightheartedness to the difficult stuff we're working on. I think that's really important. It helps people be more vulnerable with me and make more progress. And I'm also, I have an innate ability to also hear and see what's going on without judgment. And so it becomes a safe place for people to really share and, just get real and get rid of the junk.
So what are one or two popular misconceptions about the service that you bring, and how do you dispel those?
Well, one is that sometimes business leaders think all that people stuff, that's just mamby-pamby, or hey, I'm giving them a paycheck. They don't have to like their work. And that could not be farther from the truth. I mean, one, you want employees that are fired up about their work, not just there for a paycheck. Yes, you need to pay them, but really they have an innate desire to know that they're appreciated and acknowledged. There is an innate desire to know that their life is part of something bigger than themselves. And how great if your place of employment could be that place where they're feeling that desire. And they also want to feel like they're doing a good job. And so those are some basic things that business leaders can do to help create that, to feed those desires for their employees. And, yep, it is people stuff. And, one thing I do is I'll have them rarely do we think about the amount of money that drama costs us as business owners. And if you start looking at, let's just take a simple one. Let's say you have 3 employees that don't get along. those 3 employees, you lose productivity from the 3 of them not working well together. You lose productivity from each of those 3 going and talking to 2, 3, 4, or 5 other employees throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just add up those minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, let alone, meetings that are ineffective or trying to schedule around that conflict. I mean, rarely do we think about the cost. And if we did, it would be astronomical. And because we have not figured out a way to provide either products or services, even when so much of our business is online, there's still always the human factor. And so people are a part of business, and so we need to pay attention to the people side of business.
Wow. There's the ADP employment report that comes out every month that moves the market. If you could figure out a way to come up with a drama report every month that shows how much we lost in productivity, you could make
that would be a good idea, and I think that would motivate people to utilize my services more quickly. For sure.
Wow, and that's I'd never. We look at productivity due to the sports times of the year, like the NCAA tournament and time off and things like that. But the cost of emotion, stress, that's a huge thing that's not even considered.
Yeah, it's funny. I've got a meeting with a client coming up next week, and and they're saying, is the stuff you're doing, is the investment we're making in what you're doing for us really helping? Is it worth it? And I'm going to bring one email that went out from one employee to a team, and I ended up kind of getting sucked into their drama. It's just one sheet of paper. There's nothing on it, really, that should have caused a bunch of drama, but it did because of the dynamics going on inside that organization. Emails were flying, and these are highly paid people, so they spent a lot of money just on the emails flying. No one was resolving any of the conflict or lack of trust or anything. Well, I went in, I met with the team, I brought that piece of paper, and I said, let's go through it, let's modify it. We did that. I went back to the person who sent the email originally. He said, oh, yeah, that's all good. That was my intent. Yep. They just, kind of misread and applied some intent that wasn't there, and that's what caused all the drama. Bam, we're done. It's not causing any more drama. So am I providing value? Yes.
Wow. So now if we take a step back and look at where you started, where did you start, and how did you get into the role that you're in now in terms of consulting on culture? Well, so I
originally, got my master's degree in human resource management from Michigan State University. So I actually had undergrad in employee relations and then a master's degree. And back then they called it labor and industrial relations. They have renamed it now, but to be more human resource management. But so I got my degree, and then I worked for over 10 years for large organizations working in human resources. But my favorite place to play, and I always say my work is play, and I love it that way. But my favorite place to play was in all the team dynamics and culture stuff and helping leaders lead well. And so there was a period when I started my family that I was home for a bit, and then I was in a situation where I needed to get back to work, and I really started diving in and figuring out, what is my true passion? Where do I really want to spend my time? And so I did the work of figuring out of all the human resource stuff I had done, what do I really want to do? And it really was around culture and coaching and working with the leaders. So, and I love those heart-centered organizations. I love working with nonprofits, healthcare, and those entrepreneurs and family businesses. But anyway, so I started my business over 10 years ago. It might be even going on 11 years now, Focus Forward Coaching, and initially started just focusing on the coaching aspect, but again, I kept reaching through those leaders into the culture, because I would hear, things that were going on with the team, and I would say, well, do this and try this, and but ultimately, to really make the full impact, I ended up adding quite a number of years ago that cultural assessment. And that gets me access to the whole team, and I create what I call a report of findings. I interview team members, and then I create a report of findings that really identifies all the challenges that are going on inside of the business, and then creates that roadmap for what they need to do to fix it. So really what I'm doing now is a combination of my education, my experience, and then also my innate abilities to just know and understand what's going on inside of relationships and communication.
Okay. Now, you've got 2 books that we talked about at the beginning of the show. Is there anything that you'd like to extract from those at a high level that you could share with the listeners?
Well, I would just say, if you're in healthcare, then check out that book. And that one, I would say what is unique about and why I wrote a book specifically for healthcare providers, and it's really any of those heart-centered leaders. What I found is if you're a healthcare leader, you were born with a heart to heal and serve. I'm going to assume based on the many, many healthcare providers I've worked with. And that heart to heal and serve is just an extra little challenge in leading, because what I find is healthcare leaders, because they're born with that heart to heal and serve, they want to heal and serve their employees. And while we don't want to shut our hearts off when we're at work, ultimately we do need to set clear expectations and hold people accountable. And healthcare providers had a lot of leaders have guilt around holding people accountable, which I help them rid themselves of. But anyway, the healthcare leaders had a bit more guilt. So that book is really about removing the guilt and leading well, as the title suggests. But so now, I don't know if that's exactly what you're.
Yeah, no, just just little insights from both of them.
Yeah. And then the other book, the Defeat the Drama, is really, all leaders. And it walks you step by step. There are what I call catapult tasks. Both books have catapult tasks. So not just an exercise, but a catapult task. Because if you read and then using the catapult task, you implement what you just learned. So you're not just it's not just a passive reading of a book. You read the book and then you actually implement. And so it's learning about, it's kind of walking you through what I do with my clients. So figuring out what are the barriers. So it really helps you clearly identify what are we selling, what services, what products, because even if you're selling a product, you're also selling service. Mm-hmm. And then what do we want it to feel like to do business with us? What experiences, what behaviors, what do our employees need to exhibit and create for our customers to have them have that kind of experience? And then what kind of employees do we need so that they can have that personality? And anyway, it just walks you through, and then just how to look at your team right now and think, how can we tweak things with the current team, or what kinds of people do we need to think about hiring going forward in the future, those kinds of things. But it just walks you step by step through. By the end, if you do all the catapult tasks, you'll have the team of your dreams, or you'll be well on your way. Okay. I actually have a boot camp as well that they can find at defeatthedrama.com, but it's Defeat the Drama, and it's kind of similar to the book, but it's video and action steps. It's a 7-module boot camp.
Okay, great. Now we are out of time, but if you could share with the listeners, if they'd like to learn more about your services, possibly engage with your organization, what's the best way for them to contact your organization?
So you can send me an email at KROSS, as in Sam, at focusforwardcoaching.com. And just shoot me an email, and then let's schedule a time to chat about how I might be able to help you identify the barriers that you have. Just remove that frustration. I always say I help people go from resigned, resentful, and overwhelmed. Remove all of that.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
Well, Kirsten, I appreciate you so much for coming on the show. That was very valuable information that you shared with our listeners, and we really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed being on your show.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.